Okay, good morning, everybody. Welcome back to Oral Communication Presentations. I'm Professor Mike, and today we're going to talk about signposting. We're going to talk about the language that you need to use to make effective transitions between slides, between thoughts, ideas, important points, as well as we're going to look at some of the language that's used to describe your results. So anything you have on the screen behind you, or on a flip chart or on the whiteboard when you're describing something, I want to talk about the language that you can use to effectively describe either a graph, a chart, a figure, or something like that. So let's get right into today's lesson. Okay, so the first thing that I actually want to do is define signposting. What exactly is it? Okay, so if you look at the dictionary, I'm just going to make this a little bit larger and scroll down a bit here. The dictionary defines signposting as an indication or a sign or a guide. Okay, so it's much like a signpost. Let me go back here a second. Okay, so a signpost is it's a sign. It's I guess you call it cédula in tableau en français. Okay, so something that will say stop or turn to the right or go left or anything, especially when you're driving. Okay, so if you look at the example here, it says, let's say you are driving down the road in a strange city, looking for a building, and the streets have no signs. Oh, I hate it when that happens. It happens actually a lot when I'm driving around in Petržalka and I am looking for a certain shop or an address of some sort, and very often I can't find the name of the street, okay? So signs are posted on streets to provide guidance, okay? So it's a sprevod. We need to have these signposts in our conversations as well to avoid people, hang on a second, let me get rid of that. So we need to have these signposts in our conversations to avoid people from feeling lost. Okay, so it's much like in our presentation. We need to guide people. It's a technique to help people follow the meaning of what you are saying throughout a conversation. So your presentation is effectively a conversation between yourself and an audience. You're describing your work or your topic, your area of interest, and you're basically telling the audience, you've got a structured order, and you're telling them, from one point to the next, how to move on, and what they're going to hear. Okay, so you help people organize what you are saying to them. Okay, so they're listening to you, and they basically know, what you said, what you're saying now, and then what you are going to say. Okay. So yeah, we've all had conversations where people seem to be going in all sorts of directions and we can't follow them. Okay, it happens to many people. It happens to me many times. They are not using signposting. They are not guiding us from topic to topic. Okay. Anyway, so rather than just abruptly starting conversations, okay, signposting helps you make a smooth entrance, okay? It's a hladká tranzicia between the points, okay? But this is the entrance though. This is the introduction. Okay, so for example, here are some examples of using signposting to begin a conversation or to begin a presentation. So today, let's start by discussing the new project. This is a little bit of business English, okay, but that's fine. Business English, okay, or business presentations can be applied as well to any kind of presentation, even academic, okay, even non-academic. The language is universal. So first of all, we need to address the meeting with HR, that's human resources, ľudské zdroje. Signposting can also be used in the beginning to set the stage for the rest of the conversation. Okay, so today we need to address three areas. Okay, first we need to talk about the IT seminar. Next, we'll address the issues with new office policies. Finally, we'll review the agenda for the annual retreat. Okay, this is a very classic technique, and there's actually three techniques that you need to keep in mind. Okay, and this is the first technique, which is called listing. Listing. Today we need to address three areas. Okay, so here's the first, second, okay, next, and the third or final. Okay. And actually, hang on a second. I'm just going to go back here to myself. Okay, so a classic technique or something to keep in mind just to make everything as simple as possible. It's really complicated making a presentation. But if you keep it simple and keep these three techniques in mind, okay, the first one is listing, okay? So listing, at the introduction of your presentation, what you're going to say, okay, when you're going to say it, and then a conclusion, how you're going to end your presentation. The second thing that you really need to also keep in mind is linking, okay? So we have listing. Point number two is linking, okay? Linking are using those effective transitions between the points, okay? Or between slides, okay? So you can say something, okay, like, that's all I would like to talk to you today about so-and-so. Let's move on to the next point, okay? Or we can say, so now you have heard about blah, 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 blah. Now we can move on and discuss blah, 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 blah. Okay, so it's between 2 points. The third part, the third technique is emphasis, dworaz. When you emphasize, the verb is emphasize, the noun is emphasis, okay? So to zdworaznit, okay, or to place emphasis, okay, is actually a technique to, to show your audience, how important each point actually is. I'm going to show you a short video. There's some man, I can't remember his name. In fact, I don't even know his name, to be honest, but I've seen this video before, and he talks about these three techniques. So let's go right into it.
Today we look at signposting techniques. These are techniques used for presentation. Hi, welcome to today's eQuip Tip. My name is Dirk, your Business English trainer. Today we look at signposting techniques. These are techniques used for presentations to help your audience follow your line of thought, understand at what stage of the presentation you are at, or even for presenters to emphasize key points. There are three techniques I would like to share with you. The first one is simply listing. That is, if you have a list of points, you can use a lead-in sentence and then list those points accordingly and explain further. So for example, we have three key points to consider: location, staffing, and initial investment. First of all, location, and then you talk about that point. You follow it afterwards with secondly and finally, and talk about those points accordingly. The second technique I would like to highlight to you is the use of links between the different parts of a presentation. So where one part of a presentation closes and another opens. So for example, that's all I would like to talk to you about regarding the location. Now let's turn to the staffing issue. So it's basically a transition between the two parts. And the final technique I would like to highlight to you is for emphasis. This is useful for the presenter when they want to highlight something more critical to the audience so the audience can remember. So when you've talked about something or a section of your presentation, you can maybe say at the end of that section, so just to reiterate, I would like to emphasize blah, 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 and you emphasize that key point. So these are three key techniques to consider when presenting. Hopefully you can implement them into your next presentation. If you like this video, please click like.
Okay, so his name is Dirk. Dirk went on to, talk about subscribe to my video or subscribe to my channel if you like these videos and so on. So I had to stop it there. I just really hate it when YouTubers do that. So anyways, the next thing I want to do is I'm going to show you another video, just because we're still on the topic of signposting. So basically, Dirk, he said three things. You want listing, you want linking, and then you want emphasis. Okay, so emphasis goes, after the point. Okay, so just to say a second time, he used a great word to reiterate. Okay, it's like recapitulate. Okay. Anyways, I'm going to show you a small part of a great, I think it's a great example of how to use signposting in presentations.
There's a famous quote about making presentations. Tell the audience what you're going to say it, and then tell them what you've said. Have you heard this before? Do you know who said it? This comes from Dale Carnegie, a very successful American salesman and writer. He lived a long time ago, but his advice is still relevant today. So here's a question. What does the quote mean?
It means that your presentation shouldn't just give information. You also need to show people how your information is organized. To do this, you need signposting language. Let me give you an example to explain. Imagine you go to a website. The website is full of really useful, interesting information, but the information is all on one page. There's no organization, and you have to scroll up and down this huge page trying to find what you need. Would you stay on that website? Probably not. You'd find a website which made it easier for you to find the information you needed. What's the point here?
The point is that having interesting or relevant information is not enough. How you structure and organize your information is equally important. If you don't structure your presentation clearly, people won't pay attention, just like you won't stay on a website if you can't find the information you want. So how can you do this? You use signposting language. This means using words and phrases to show the audience where your points begin and end, to show what's coming next, and to remind them about things you talked about before.
For example, okay, that covers the new policies. Next, I'd like to move on and discuss what these policies mean to you. Or, now that you've heard a bit about what not to do, let's focus on positive advice to help you be more effective salespeople and close more of your leads. When you say something like this, you aren't giving people information about the topic of your presentation. Instead, you're showing people where you are and where you're going next. It's a kind of signpost. You don't need signposts to travel from one place to another, but they can make it easier. What else can you use signposting language for?
You can use signposting language to move from one point to the next. For example, next, I'd like to talk about, let's move on and discuss, or at this point, I'd like to turn to.
You can use signposting language to add detail to an idea. Let me go into some more detail about. Let's examine in more depth. Or, I'd like to elaborate on.
You can use signposting language to show that you finished your main points and you've reached your conclusion. To wrap up, let's remind ourselves of why this should matter to everyone here. Let's review the key points from this session. So, you've heard what I have to say. What conclusions can you take away from this? If you have an important presentation in English, practice using signposting language. Use signposting language to move between points to show when you're giving a summary or going into more detail, and to signal that you've reached your conclusion. Okay, but things don't always go so smoothly in real life. We know that. Let's look at some advice and language for dealing with problems during your presentation.
So you just saw there two people speaking about effective ways to, or effective language, I suppose, how to use signposting. Okay, first, second, okay. So again, the listing. But she also talked about the transitions. Okay, so now let's move on to this. Okay, and again, the third technique, the emphasis, of course, to reiterate, to review. Okay, there are different techniques about that. What I would like you to do is, I would like you just to, well, I mean, you don't have to. I'm going to put it in front of the screen right now. But if you do want to do it later, just go over to page 79 of the handbook. And there's something about graphs and results and so on that I'd really like to, I'm going to talk to you today about. And we'll go through some of the language, okay? So especially about contrasting and comparing results and things like that. And there's also on page 80, like the next page, there's some phrases as well that you can use, or very simple phrases. I guess maybe the most common phrases that are used, to emphasize your points and make those transitions between your points. Okay, let's go over to the book here. Okay, so in Unit 10, all right, here we have the body, describing results and things like that, okay? This is the real presentation, okay? So you've already introduced your topic, okay? You're well prepared, okay? Now it's time for you to be in control, okay? So the body of your presentation, of course, it needs to be well structured, okay? So you need to divide, I'm just going to, before I go here, divide your presentation into sections, like part 1, part 2, part 3, part 4, 5, 6, if you need to, okay? And you're going to have to, keep in mind that, well, first of all, you need to keep in mind time, but also your visuals, like your slides, your pictures, okay? You might have drone footage, okay? Footage is like a zabere, drones, okay? Or, just, contrasting pictures. You have graphs as well, and all of these things are going to explain visually, okay, visually, okay, what you are saying. All right, I'm just going to scroll down a little bit here. All right, so the points you want to make should be reduced to keywords only. So if you remember our presentation from last week with David J.P. Phillips, okay, you don't want a lot of text on, in fact, you need to keep it at a minimum, okay? It's like a 6x6. You should not read from your notes, okay? Try to make it natural. Try to, you can memorize. Memorizing is a lot better than actually reading. Nobody wants to see somebody reading, and nobody comes to a presentation to watch somebody reading from the, what they can read from, just from the slides behind them. All right, and of course your presentation needs the signposting, okay? All right, before I go back to that signposting, okay, I want to just look at the describing results. Now, I have to admit that when I wrote this book, when I wrote this handbook, I wrote it more, I didn't do the best job, to be honest. I wrote it very quickly. The publisher, Comenius University, I'm shaking my head. You can't see it right now, but my head is, Kivam Hlavu. The publisher, the Vydavatelstvo, they were very difficult to work with. And in fact, actually, everything you see here, I had to do it. So I didn't have any experience with graphics or anything like that. And when I came to this part here, to the describing results, I have to admit, I should have spent more time and, more explanation on these words. But I guess at the time, I kept it in mind that I would be showing this to you in the classroom, face to face. Back in 2016, 2017, when I wrote this book, nobody knew. Of course, I didn't know that there would be a lockdown or COVID-19, that 2020 would be like the year of, teaching online. But that's okay. I'm a teacher. I'm a professional teacher. I can handle it. So I just want to show you the words that I have here. Okay, so these are some of the most common linking words. Okay, you can use them in writing as well, in your professional writing, but also, when you present. Okay, so for example, you have words such as "on the other hand." Okay, remember, on the other hand. Hand, not side. Side je posproti, okay? Na druhej strane, okay? On the other hand, okay? So when you have 2 points, one point is like this, okay? Point number, if I get my fingers, okay, I'll use it like that. Point number 1 and point number 2, okay? They are 180-degree opposite, all right? Okay. You have all kinds of words here. Okay. For example, despite. Okay, is another word for contrast. Okay. All right then. There is a small exercise where you can put them as making contrasts and describing results. Okay. So we know that on the other hand is talking about a contrast. Remember, contrast is also a comparison, okay? When you're either, showing that something is similar or something is completely different, okay? So we have words like on the other hand or despite or whereas, okay? Means also the same thing, whereas, okay? Whereas is a great word to use in the middle of the sentence, okay? So we can say that the Canadian beaver eats, or the Canadian beaver prefers maple tree when building the dam, whereas, okay, like na druhej strane, whereas the Slovak beaver, yes, you have beaver, bobor. You have beavers in Petržalka. I saw them at Dražďák. So the Canadian beaver prefers maple trees when building its dam, whereas the Slovak beaver prefers oak, dub, oak tree. Okay. The other words here, however, of course, is a contrast. While is also a contrast as well, okay? Many of the other ones, though, okay, therefore or thus, okay? These ones describe your results, okay? So they're causal, okay? That means that something happens causing causing the result. All right, anyway, so I want to go more to our graph, so. All right, then. First of all, look at this graph here, okay. This is called a pie chart, pie, koláč, also in Slovak. The koláčový, graph, I guess you call it, or chart, okay. But we don't call it a graph, we call it a pie chart, okay. Whereas, okay, pričom, okay, na druhej strane, whereas, this is a line chart, okay, and then we have here, okay, a bar graph, okay. All right, so we have here a pie chart, a line chart, or line graph as well. But this isn't a chart, this is a bar graph, the bar, okay? All right, now, I want to go over here. So you have to use very simple language when talking about these graphs, okay? And you also need to talk about trends, okay? Trend, sklon, okay? Whether it's decreasing, klesajúci, okay? Or increasing, stupajúci. Whether it's higher, je to vyšší, or lower, nižší. Okay, the proportion, okay? Whether it's primeraný to other values, okay? Iným hodnotám. All right, let's have a look here. Okay, when you're explaining a visual, okay, this is actually more signposting now. Okay, you can say, now let's look at the next slide. Okay, first, let me quickly explain this graph. Okay, so here we're introducing our graph. You can see that the different colors have been used to indicate, okay? So we have different colors here to indicate, to show. The key in the bottom of the left-hand corner, okay? So the left hand, left, this is my hand, okay? And this is the left-hand corner over here. So if there were a key, or if there was a key, all right, you could indicate where it is and what it is describing, okay? All right then. So the speakers in our videos also emphasized that your information, is important. So you could say, I'd like to start by drawing your attention to, okay? So you're attracting, okay? Draw doesn't just mean kreslit, okay? Faire les dessins, okay? But means to attract, okay? So you're drawing your attention, okay? What I'd like to point out here, okay? Another way to say what I'd like to indicate. And of course, this is emphasis, so I think you'll be surprised to see, okay? All right, podľa mňa budete prekvapení vidieť, okay, že vám ukážem toto, okay? All right then. I'd like you to turn your attention to this graph and let's look more closely at this graph, okay? All right, so we have here some exercises, okay? You can, what are the opposites? Higher than, so of course, lower than. Increase, decrease, greater than. Greater means bigger, väčší, okay? Fluctuate. Fluctuate is a great word. It means to like pohybovat, okay? It's going to move around, okay? Pohyblivý, the fluctuations, and of course rise is to go down. So to fluctuate is to be stable or stabilize, and rise, okay? Stupat, okay? Or zvýšit, to get higher, and then of course to either to decrease or to fall or fell. Okay, so we have some words here that will help you. So climb, all right, so climbing, all right, again is to stupat, just like climbing a mountain, and drop, okay? Drop is a word, in Slovak you say pad, okay? So this is a very sharp, ostry, okay? Ostry pad. Go down, increase, rise, declines, expand, okay? Expand. Go up, plunged. Now, plunge is also, okay, like when you're swimming, okay, you plunge into the water, you dive into the water. Stabilize, okay? Stabilna, stabilacja. Decrease, fell, grew, and remains, okay? So we know that remains is, the opposite of fluctuate or stabilize, okay? To stay the same right here. All right, we can say also to double, okay? Double is 2 times, dvojnásobné. again, fluctuate, reaches a low, okay, dociane, okay, nisku hladinu, and stable. Okay, so if you want, in the book here, you can put them in categories. So one is upward, one is downward, and other, okay, whether it stays the same or not. All right, let's have a look here at some of the signposting that I talked to you about. All right, so yeah, we know all about all this in here. So it was emphasized, okay, that, or the woman in the last video talked about Dale Carnegie, who is a very successful businessman, a New Yorker. I'm not from New York, I'm from Canada. But New York is an amazing city, okay? And of course, there's the state of New York, which is also very beautiful. And Dale Carnegie, of course, he's associated with Carnegie Hall, which is a great, really huge theater that, you know, a lot of you know, actors, actresses, but especially musicians, of course, you know, singers, their aspiration is to perform at Carnegie Hall. And he said, of course, you know, you have to say, you know, okay, you have to say it, okay, or say what you said, say it, and say it again. All right, so here are 5 points that I've kind of, you know, these are my own 5 points, so. Okay, so you need to indicate what is coming next. So in this part of the presentation, I would like to show you blah, 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 or moving on to the next point. Okay, so this one, even the other speakers in the videos used it. When you come to the end of a section, finally, all of the results are collected by using, you know, okay, so whatever the technique or the method that you use to collect any of the results. And again, emphasis, referring back. So as I mentioned earlier, or to reiterate, or to recapitulate, and of course, to summarize a point. Now, I would like to sum up what I've said so far, okay? If you go down here, okay, so on the next page, I have a table, okay, I didn't make it, I stole it basically from, I don't even remember where, but I just copied and pasted it because it was so good, okay. Yeah, so here you have everything, okay, you introduce the subject, and here's the language you can use, okay, so first of all, starting with, I'll begin by, okay. Next, you know, that's the listing, okay? You're always going to refer back to something, okay? Well, I've told you about this, or that's all I have to say about that. We've looked at these things, okay? And then I can move on to the next point, okay? And now we'll move on to, I like how even the speaker talked about turn. Let me turn now to this and turning to that. Okay, and then of course we have analyzing points, giving examples, okay, great ones to illustrate. Illustrate is draw, but it's also used to describe, okay? And if you go on, there's stuff, you know, about questions, of course, you know, we're not going to do that. Okay, we have the listing or ordering and so on. Okay, I'll leave it at that for... All right, guys, I hope that was helpful to you. I apologize that this video is coming late. I actually tried making it yesterday, and I guess I didn't have enough coffee in the morning when I started filming, and I only had the photo section or the photo application instead of the video pressed, and I didn't realize that I was talking for so long and I wasn't even filming myself. So in the end, I just like, forget it. You know, I was so frustrated. I thought, well, I'll just leave it for the next time then. So, all right, guys. So I just want to recapitulate or reiterate and say thank you very much to everybody who's expressed interest in wanting to do the face-to-face, okay? So I've got all the spots are filled up, okay? Many of you have been writing me emails, and yes, I've made those changes. I will send at some point between now and next week an updated version of the list of all the dates when you can make your presentation. Now, your presentation, if you are going to do a face-to-face presentation, they're going to take place on Thursdays, Stvrtok, okay? Not Wednesday, okay? Because Thursday, I have actually a lot of time between 8 o'clock and let's say 11 o'clock because I had the professional writing, actually I had 2 classes reserved for face-to-face lectures. But now that I'm online, okay, basically I use that time for creating the video for professional writing. But I'll have to figure something out. I'll probably do the video earlier in the week and find some time. And then that way I have Thursdays just to make those presentations. Now, of course, we have these new measures, okay? So I can have only 6 people in a room. So we'll have 5 presenters, including myself, okay? If we have more people, well, don't panic. It just means that, you know, some people might have to go into the hallway, go get a cup of coffee and come back, okay, and then do their presentation after the presenter before has finished and gone, just so that we keep 6 people in the classroom at a time, okay? For the rest of you, okay, you're going to do a video presentation. Now, I showed you some techniques. I should show you some more, actually. I should make another video and show you some more examples. Okay, people use Zoom very often, which is great. People, you know, use, you know, they do it like me, kind of these low quality videos, you know, going between, you know, going back and forth, you know, between the selfie and the you know, the direct lens towards the screen. But I can show you. I do have an editing program, and it's for free, and it works really well for me, especially when I'm doing transitions. You know, when I put the, you know, you'll see at the bottom like some, you know, some text, and you can put music and things like that. Of course, I don't bother doing that as well. So, but I'll share that with you. I downloaded it from the Play Store, the Google Play Store, and it's called UCut, and it's really, really effective. It's very easy to use. Even somebody like me can use it, and I'm hardly, you know, like you know, some film editor or director or anything like that. So, all right. So for the rest of you, if you're doing the video presentation, again, it's kind of the same rules. Try to keep it about 10 minutes long. You guys can send it to me by the end of December. Okay, I have no problems with that. Excuse me. If you want to send it later, or if you need to send it later, by all means, you know, send me an email. Just let me know that you've got experiments, or you're busy, or something, you know, something else is happening in your life and you need the extra time. And of course, you know, I'm very open to, you know, or at least very understanding, considering the situation that's happening now in this world of ours. And if you do need that extra time, sure, no problem. We can figure something out. All right, everybody. You guys take care of yourselves, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.